I want to welcome you to today's Maximum Performance webinar series one more time. Today's program was supposed to be presented by Mr. Mark Madsen, and he was going to be sharing with us tips, tricks, and ideas for how to maximize results with social media marketing in minimal time. He's obviously perfected his skill. His official title with Best Rate Referrals is Search Engine Marketer Engineer, and he is in charge of all of the search engine dynamics and protocols for that company. Unfortunately, Mark called me at about 10 minutes after 10 Central Time and informed me that he had a family emergency come up rather unexpectedly and was not able to join us for today's program. I've asked a friend and colleague of mine, and a fellow Mortgage Success Source faculty member, David Kuiper, to help me out with today's program a little bit. I'm going to be upgrading him to presenter status here in just a moment. David, I'm going to keep you going, but I've decided to shift gears, and I always kind of have a contingency plan in place. What I'm going to be talking about today is sort of a purchase initiative that we call the Make a Difference Challenge. By the way, Mark did inform me briefly that he will find some time as soon as he gets through his family emergency to be able to go ahead and jump in and record the program that he was going to provide for you. So all of you that have registered for today's program will be able to get a recording of, and we will send out a bonus video . Okay, so Mr. Kuiper, if you're on the line, go ahead and say hey if you don't mind.
Am I calling in, or can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. You're in good shape. Okay, guys. So Mr. Mark, Mr. Madsen is going to be giving us a recording of the program that he was going to share with all of you today, just as soon as he can handle his family situation. And he did indicate to me that he would make sure that he made that commitment and promised to you that he would honor that. So you will be not only getting the program that I'm going to throw at you today, which is focused on a hot topic and issue that you hopefully all are aware of, which is the need and importance of really focusing on how we can make a difference in our communities with purchase opportunities that are all around us. If you haven't been following the market and what's been going on in the last couple of months, you've probably realized a severe drop-off in refinance business. So one of the initiatives we started to launch late December was what I called the Make a Difference Challenge, and there were a couple of things that that kind of prompted this. Is looking ahead at the market, the forecast of what was going on in the market. We thought that there was a high probability that interest rates would begin to climb from the ultra-low rates of the low threes that was driving refinance volume most of last year. And so one of the initiatives we came up with was this idea of what we called the Make a Difference Challenge. Now, it was launched on a fairly small scale with relatively short notice. It was a little bit of unusual timing in the market as well, because we launched it like literally the week after Thanksgiving and got limited response and participation. But I'm bringing the initiative back because I think it's now more important than ever that we take on this mission and that we focus on trying to do everything in our power to make a huge difference in the market communities that we work in, because we still have an unprecedented housing opportunity unlike that we've ever seen in American real estate history. We still have plenty of opportunities to be able to help people understand the value of investing in their future and spending the money that they're going to spend one way or another to keep the roof over their head in buying versus rent. There's also people who are going to benefit from upgrade opportunities. And then the other issue is that the people who are most likely to benefit probably are least likely to be aware of what's going on around them. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing in today's program is that we are going to be focusing on how to make a difference and reach out to the people who can benefit from today's program. So as we rip through today's program, I just want to share some basic ideas with you of ways that we can make a difference and introduce this whole concept of making a difference in your communities, and then we can go from there. By the way, Earl McLean, you just joined in, one of our coaches who many of you have heard. I'm going to throw you under on the spot a little bit here, and I'm going to open up your mic as well, Earl. As you probably are aware at this point, our original scheduled presenter for today's program was unable to attend. He had a last-minute family emergency that popped up. He called me literally about 15 after 10 to tell me that he was not going to be able to attend. So, Earl, I may ask you to help me out and jump in with monitoring the Q&A and answering questions as we move through today's program. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce all of you to some of the key concepts and ideas of this Make a Difference Challenge, and then we'll move through from there. Now, one of the ideas here is, we all know that there are people out there who could benefit from doing something different with their housing situation. And I use the analogy of mining to kind of consider how we can benefit, because it's not everybody that can benefit from a home. It's not everybody that's in a perfect position to benefit from a mortgage, correct? So the idea here is that we need to be able to look and find the people that really do have a specific need, because if we can find the need, we can find a lead. Hey, Earl, I'm going to go ahead and mute you out for just a second, and when you get some of the background noise taken care of, go ahead and I'll unmute you as we get closer to the end of the program. Like I said, so one of the program things that we're going to focus on is how do we go through and mine for those little nuggets of opportunity that exist in our community and the people who are most likely to benefit from what we have to offer. And the reason I use this analogy of mining is if you think about it, like if you ever watched the show Gold Rush, I don't know, I picked it up a couple of years ago with the first season, and I've just become a fan of it. One of the things that amazes me is they will literally move tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of tons of earth to put it into this complicated and fickle wash plant system that then filters out these little tiny nuggets of gold and flakes of gold that are literally worth thousands of dollars an ounce. And it's those thousands of dollars of ounces of opportunities that we're really looking for. So what are the opportunities in a purchase-oriented market? Who are the people that can benefit the most? Now, you guys have heard me talk about the Yellow Honda concept many times before in these programs that we've been doing since early October. I think this is webinar number 15 in the series, and for the first time, obviously, we've had a presenter who had an unexpected emergency that popped up that had to pull him away, which is why we're doing an alternate program today. But you guys have all had that experience, right? The car you just bought or the car you really want all of a sudden becomes the only car on the road. Now, the reason I ask you to think about this is there's two ways to look at the environment and the shift in the rates that have taken place in the recent history here. One is to get frustrated and focus on the challenges and difficulties that creates for your business model, the lack of volume, the refis disappearing, what do? The clients you can no longer help by helping them save money on a mortgage. But here's the problem with this Yellow Honda effect. Your brain is going to bring to your attention what you're focused on, right? So what becomes more apparent? What do you see more of if you're focused on the obstacles or challenges? The obvious answer being the challenges and obstacles, correct? However, the cool part about that part of our brain is that it's a biomechanical process. What it means is it's consistent. It does the same thing every time, which means we can control it. So what happens if we start focusing on the opportunities? What is our brain going to start bringing to our attention more frequently? And what's going to get left to the side and ignored is the obstacles. So let's talk about the opportunities. Let's talk about how we can help people in our community benefit from what is still one of the most outstanding housing opportunities in American real estate history. Well, the first question we have to ask ourselves is who needs our help? Who can we benefit? Let me ask you something. At 6% interest on a mortgage, does it still make sense for a great majority of renters to think about buying? I mean, what's the interest rate on rent, right? Is anything at all going to principal? Practical reality is if somebody's renting, they're paying 100% interest. Not reality, but they have zero of their housing payment going to build any equity for themselves or their family or their future. So they are literally throwing money away down somebody else's toilet. If they're spending $1,000 a month on rent, that's over $60,000 in 5 years that went down somebody else's toilet. Who else needs you? Who else needs to hear from you that there's an incredible opportunity to better a family's housing situation right now? Well, think about family size. Think about the family that bought their 3-bed, 2-bath starter home 5, 6 years ago when interest rates were 6%. But they've had 1 or 2 or 3 additional children. Okay, David, I know you shared my sentiments with this. You know, I have 4 kids, guys. We outgrew our first house when kid number 2 was on the way. We lived in that first little 1,300 square foot starter home for about a year and a half, literally, because we outgrew it very, very quickly. But how many families are still living in a home that's really too small for their family? And why is that? Why would a family continue to live in a housing situation that's inappropriate for their family years, 5, 6 years longer than they probably should have? Well, the number one reason is they don't think they can afford it. But the problem is they're thinking about their mortgage payment and the amount of house at bottom when interest rates were 6%, which is what they bought. What happens to somebody's ability to afford more house when interest rates drop from 6% into the low 4s? So think about how much more somebody could buy now with 4% money versus what they bought 5 years ago with 6% money, particularly considering that the second and third and fourth tiers of most real estate markets are still fairly soft. What there seems to be increasing demand for is entry-level properties. So why not offer a family the opportunity to sell their current home at a premium and buy their next home at a discount and do it with money that's 20% cheaper, meaning their mortgage payment is typically going to be 20 to 25% less for the same size house as what it would have cost them 5 years ago. And then think about other areas of opportunity. I'm not going to zero in on all of this for too long, but these are the kind of things I want you to be thinking about. Who needs you? Who can I help? Where are the opportunities in the market? Who are the families that could benefit from doing something different with their housing situation right now? You know, think about the other thing that's happened over the last 5 years with the recession and everything. You know, relocations, job changes, commutes going from 5 minutes to 50 minutes, you know, all of those different things that have happened job-wise with the unstable economy over the last 5 years that have caused a change to somebody's housing situation needs. Now, this next bullet point you see on the page is one that I'm really kind of very passionate about, and part of the reason for that is I have good friends locally who were kind of caught up in this mix. And the interesting thing, and this is where this whole idea came from, and this is why I began to realize that the people don't know what they don't know until we care enough to point it out to them. Because I found myself talking to a lot of families who were renting and had been renting for an extended period of time who hadn't even thought about buying a home because they felt like it was the safe thing to do, right? I mean, the guy who's got a good job, the guy who's stable in his employment situation, the guy who, or the family, the lady who, you know, has just kept their nose clean, does their job right every day, shows up, works hard, and pays their bills on time. They just have focused so hard on staying stable. Whether they're renting or whether they are owning a home or buying a home, they just kind of focus on doing what they need to do to stay on track financially. And they aren't even at anywhere away. And that's one of the reasons I say that this initiative becomes so important to me, because of the fact that the people who are most likely to benefit are the people who are probably least likely to be aware that this entire opportunity exists. So what's triggered all of this? What are the things that have driven this? Now, this is a chart that I pulled up back in November, right before I launched this last initiative, okay? This is pulled from the Mortgage Market Guide. Now, this was a 15 November 2010 to 13 November 2012. This was a 2-year snapshot of what the market had done. You know, what it basically did is, and green is good, up is good, down is bad as far as interest rates, right? Okay, just to explain what this charting does for you. What we basically looked at is we kept peaking better rates, and then we'd drop back a little bit, and then we'd hit better rates and even better rates, and then we'd drop back a little bit, stabilize, and we got into where we were setting new record day after day after day after day of the best rates in American real estate history. We got into, I mean, when was last, I mean, have you guys ever thought of, I mean, I know me personally, and David, feel free to chime in here. You've got more experience than I do. You know, I've been in the business since 1996. I never dreamed that we would see 30-year fixed FHA rates anywhere near 3.5, paying 4 points in rebate. I never dreamed that was even humanly possible. Now, what's happened? Now, see, part of the initiative and part of what I was warning people about at that time is as we hit these ceilings, we tend to fall very quickly and very deeply on pricing. We stabilized magically back around late November, and then we kind of hovered for a little while. Now, I wanted to jump over and show you something really quickly just from current marketing. This is a 6-month snapshot that you're looking at right now. Actually, excuse me, this is a 1-year snapshot, live market real time. Okay, so back in November, where I'm hovering my mouse right about now, that was 26 September, we started to fall off a little bit. We climbed back up almost into the same territory, and then we've been kind of hovering in that channel up until about a week and a half ago. So if we start looking at the 90-day snapshot, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, which, by the way, guys, if you have any questions about this Mortgage Market Guide charting stuff, my team or I would be happy to help you. This is something we believe a lot in our coaching. Through our coaching system, we teach you how to use this stuff to kind of predict and understand what's happening with the interest rate markets and environment. This is the last 90 days, okay? What you're looking at right now, live real-time market, okay? We are, you know, we climbed up into this channel area, and this is the 3% Fannie Mae coupon. So we were seeing at, you know, at market 5.5. Now there's usually about a 3-point hedge, and in the extremes of this market, actually, we're seeing more like a 4.5 to 5 points. So par was probably around 3 back in the middle of December. What we've fallen off to now is where pricing is at around 102.61, which what that means is that probably now 3% interest rate on a Fannie Mae coupon is a cost of about 2 points. Because I've been focusing on building the coaching business the last 90 days or so, I've not been as involved in originations in the more recent past. But in fact, David, where are you seeing interest rates for your standard, you know, 30-year fixed conforming today?
3 5/8 with 0. Not all bad.
Okay, and if they were, yeah, I mean, 3 5/8 is still really good, guys. 3% coupon. In fact, we probably should look at the 3.5 chart then, if that's where things are pricing. Let's see. Let's go to Fannie Mae 3.
They've been bouncing between 3.5 and 3 5/8. So just a whisker off of where they've been.
Let's see, how do I get this thing to update, refresh? I gotta love doing live real time, right? Okay, so there we flipped to 3.5. So you're still probably seeing about 2.5, 3 points rebate at 3.5 on your 30-year fixed coupon conventional, obviously pricing adjustments, risk-based pricing and all that. But what's happened is, and this is what I had tried to get the word out, tell people is, look, we're going to see a half to 3.38 of a point increase in the next 60 to 90 days after the elections, after the inauguration, after the busy buying season is done for, you know, around the Christmas season. We're going to start to probably see a surge in rates, you know, as we've kind of moved along. But rates are still incredibly favorable. Now, the other thing that that I wanted to kind of show you guys, and that's one of the reasons that I had gone to the one-year chart when I first showed this market, is that we will find ourselves, now that we've bounced off some support, which is based on all this congestion right back here, which was back in last summer, it's very likely that we will continue to hover somewhere in this channel. Now, as far as where the next line of support comes, really, I mean, it could be a fairly severe fall, but the next line of support's below where the current channel is probably down here, which is only really probably about a quarter. So, from an analytics standpoint, yes, we don't have the ultra-low rates in the low threes that were driving a flood of refinance business, but we will probably likely continue to see interest rates hovering in the high threes to low fours for the next foreseeable 90 to 120 days, especially through the busy buying season of the real estate world. And so one of the reasons that's important to note is that, oops, I clicked to the wrong thing, is that we still have plenty of opportunity here, plenty of opportunity to help families. So yeah, 4.5% is, 4.25%, 4.5% even is still a little bit higher. We're going to get into that. And just by the way, I'm noticing in the Q&A chat, there's a number of people who are making comments about Mark Madsen. And I briefed everybody at the beginning of the call, in case you didn't hear it. Mark had an unexpected family emergency. What will happen is, if you're, getting program information, if you're wanting program information on social media, which I know you do, one, Mark is going to record the program that he was going to present for us sometime in the next couple of days, and we will issue that recording to everybody who has registered for today's call. Secondly is Mark and I are going to schedule alternate dates for an upcoming program, probably in mid-April. Mark will be back with us to kind of represent the program. Now, what I mentioned, though, is the opportunity still exists, right, guys? I mean, at the end of the day, the purchase opportunity is explosive. There's a ton of potential to help people. So the question then becomes, how do we reach out to people? Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can focus on reaching these people and communicating the opportunity to provide a service here. So let's use fishing as an analogy, right? Okay. I can go out and fish with a rod and reel, and this guy's out in blue water fishing, right? If you guys have ever done this, it can be a great way to have a fun afternoon, kick back some roots with your buds and enjoy some beautiful weather. But if we're talking about landing meat to eat, even if I hook a guy, a fish, I've got a lot of opportunities or a lot of things that can go wrong that keep the fish in the water instead of getting him in the boat. Now, if I land that one big fish, I'll be able to eat for quite a while. But there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, right? But see, there's more than one way to fish. What if we fish with a net instead of with a rod and reel? Now, if we're talking about likelihood of capturing the amount of fish, the poundage of fish that we need to feed ourselves and our family, is this a more reliable method than the other way with a rod and reel? I think the answer is generally yes. Now, what's going to happen is when you cast a net like this, you're going to bring up a lot of different things. So you've got to filter through what are the ones that you can eat right now that are big enough, that are the right kind of fish. What are the ones that they need to go back into the farming pool and grow a little bit more, and what are the ones that need to, that are the spare use tires, the soggy boot, and the sea urchins that you're going to throw back and ignore. Well, the same kind of concept applies when it comes to finding opportunities to help people. Some people you can help right now. Some people you could give the right guidance and advice to that you could help 6 months, 30, 90, 60, 90 days, 180 days, maybe a year from now. If you give them the right kind of guidance and advice, how to maybe save up a little bit more for the down payment, how to maybe get rid of some of their high-cost, high-interest consumer debt, how to, make sure they get on a budget, pay their bills on time so that they don't have any late pays, maybe helping them take care of and clean up some old stuff on the credit report, whatever it is that's the obstacle for them closing. They have some opportunity, but not right now. And then there's always the folks that you really can't help. You know, as much as you'd like to, the person who's, you know, off on a very small fixed income that's just not adequate to be able to cover the mortgage payment that they would need. And they probably need to look at opportunities to maybe, if they do want to help buy a property, they're probably going to do it with other family members or something like that. Now, here's the thing. We talk about all these opportunities. We talk about all these people that we can help, but are we talking to enough of them? Are we reaching out at our fullest and greatest capacity? What if we thought about fishing with a much bigger net? Now, imagine if you fished with a net this size. What's the probability of bringing in the amount of food that you and your family and even your community need? Yet, what's the problem with this size of a net, right? Can one guy run this net by himself? Or do you need a team of people working together to trawl with this size of a net and bring in the poundage of fish that you need to feed a whole community? Well, the reason I ask that question, the obvious answer is, yeah, you've got to need a team of people. You can maybe even predict where I'm going with this, right? Because at the end of the day, what we communicate is a filtering process. We start with a huge reach, and it filters down to the awareness and the interest of people, and then the evaluation of whether they're ready now or not, and what needs to be done if they're not. And then on down through commitment, referral, and into repeat business is where we go. Now I'm going to skip through a couple of things here really quick. You guys have heard me do kind of the breathing analogy, but how do we filter? How do we identify? How do we engage people and communicate the opportunity that potentially exists? Well, one of the ways that I've taught this in the past, and the way I introduced this, is actually, this was kind of a light bulb moment for me. About 3 years ago, this building that you see pictured with the Edward Jones office inside is right next to my kids' school that I drop them off at every morning. And as I happened to be going through there, I was thinking about at the time I was thinking about how to mine for referrals, right, and how to find more business opportunities. Now, I drove by this building, and it just for some reason the sign caught my attention. Now, financial planners for years have been offering free retirement plan reviews, free reviews. In fact, you know, it's kind of funny. I was working on an article related to this a couple of years ago, and putting this article together both for my coaching clients and for our audience of you know, readers. At the time, I was writing a regular column for Mortgage Originator magazine, and one of the things that I was trying to figure is you know, how do I help people reach a wider group? How do I help people identify? And I thought, you know, this is brilliant. So I was working on this article, and there was a cable news show on Fox News on in the background as I was working on the article. And literally in the span of you know, Bill O'Reilly, the most popular at the time cable news show, the most watched cable news show on television, 3 different national financial planning firms all had commercials on. And every one of those commercials ended with a call to action that offered some sort of a review. You know, call us, or in fact, one of the commercials was all about IRA rollovers. Okay, and the end of the commercial said, call us for a free IRA rollover review today. That was the last sound bite of that commercial. And I'm thinking, well, that's pretty brilliant. You know, this company who's probably spent several $1 million for that ad campaign decided that that was the best thing they could close the ad with. They probably know a little bit about what they're talking about. So I started thinking about how can we apply that concept. So what I came up with and what we tested in the kind of laboratory environment of our coaching clients is we played with this idea for a couple of years, and what we really honed in on is there's an opportunity to offer a service that we can provide that helps us identify whether a family has an opportunity or interest to potentially benefit. It gives us the opportunity to communicate what the potential value or benefit to that family could be, and gets a conversation started. So we call it the home opportunity review. Okay? And the outline of the conversation goes something like this. You know, imagine you're calling up a renter, and like I said, where do you find the phone numbers? I mean, it's not the sexiest way to do it, but if you had to, you could pick up a phone book, find apartment numbers listed in the address, and scrub it against the do not call list online, right? it'll take you, 30 seconds to a minute to find a phone number that you can call, and you call any random renter right now. How many do you have to call before you find one or two families who might actually be interested in buying a home? The practical reality is, hi, Mr. Renter, you don't know me from Adam, but my name is Erik Janeczko with Capital Mortgage Solutions, and we're in the middle of a home opportunity initiative right now. And the reason for that is because based on interest rates and property values, we are seeing unprecedented historic housing affordability opportunities. And I just wanted to share with you some thoughts and ideas that maybe could potentially help you and your family. I'd like to offer you what we call a home opportunity review. Now, there's no cost or obligation for the service. There's 3 real simple steps to get the process started. Basically, we need to ask you some foundational questions about what your situation is and get some background information on you. 2, I need to do some research offline. And then 3, I'll call you back and let you know what, if any, opportunity exists. The reason for this is that with these incredibly low interest rates and cheap property values, we're finding that many, many families are able to buy more house for the same money a month than what they're currently paying in rent. I mean, literally, think about it. If you're paying $600 a month in rent, over a 5-year period, that's $36,000 that's going down the toilet, somebody else's toilet, versus the kind of potential equity you and your family could be building. My job is to offer you the opportunity to participate. If you're interested, great. If not, no big deal. We just want to make sure that you are able to make a truly informed decision about whether it's right for you and your family or not. Is that okay? Do you have a few minutes to get the review started? Now, guys, I wouldn't necessarily probably go that direct in a real conversation, as I don't have somebody over the phone here to role play with. Actually, I probably could have, David. I could have picked on you for that, right? That's just one way that we could offer some service and start spreading word in our community. Now, last week on the webinar with Brad Korn, he talked about 5 a day. How many hours would it really take you to pick up the phone and call 5 people a day and connect with 5 families who may have some opportunity to benefit from this incredible housing opportunity? Now, there's a slightly alternate version of this that we could offer, and this would be what I would offer to past clients, or even to work with other financial planners, CTAs, realtors, anybody else I know in the community, HR directors or owners of companies that have, a handful of employees that they work with on a regular basis. The home upgrade review is a slightly different option. So we can talk to them about ways that we could communicate and get the word out to a wider audience, to cast a bigger net, and to be able to reach for those opportunities on a bigger basis. Now, I'm going to encourage all of you to go ahead and start posting questions. I'm going to go just about 2 more minutes here, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. I want to get your thoughts, I want to get your ideas, and I want to start working on answering any questions that you all have as to this housing initiative. Now, one of the things that we do in offering this is we can also leverage this with our business development partners. Another way we could do it is asking who questions. Now, you guys have heard me go through this today, but like, for example, every client I'm talking to right now, their radar is turned on. Their yellow Honda effect, their RAS is tuned to bringing to their attention anybody who's thinking about, talking about, or wondering about the opportunity to potentially buy a home in the current market. And all of a sudden, it feels like they're going to feel like they're eavesdropping all the time, because it's fascinating how many hundreds of people in their life, all of a sudden, everybody they know is talking about buying a home, and it catches their attention. So if I introduce this concept or idea of the Home Opportunity Initiative early in my conversations with a borrower that I'm working with, I now have 30 to 45 days that I may be in regular conversation with this borrower that create an opportunity to help that person help the people they care most about. And one of the ways we can introduce this is something along the lines of, well, Mr. Customer, I hope you appreciated the information that we've shared. As you can probably see, I'm pretty passionate about sharing these ideas and concepts with as many people as I possibly can. In fact, our team is kind of on a little bit of a mission right now. We've launched what we call the Home Opportunity Initiative. and we're doing everything we can to reach as many families as possible in the next 60 days and make sure they're aware of this incredible opportunity. So I'd really like to kind of enlist your help in that process. Is that okay? Let me ask you something. Who do you know that has a stable job but is still renting for whatever reason? You know, the guy who just works hard, shows up at his job every day, whether he's sick or not, pays his bills on time, and has been renting for the last couple of years. Part of the reason I ask, by the way, is a lot of these guys are the ones who are most likely to benefit, Mr. Customer, are the guys who are probably least likely aware. And remember that we don't know what we don't know until somebody cares enough to show us. So, anyway, and then I can go through the rest of these few conversations. For those of you on the webinar here, please go ahead and start posting your questions in the Q&A now. And we'll be getting underway with the Q&A section here in just a couple of seconds. Now, there's one other concept that I want to make sure I share with you. There's one other key thing that I would like you guys to be aware of. You don't have to bear the weight of this fully by yourselves. You have tools and resources that you can leverage. Like, for example, Platinum Marketing and the New Magazine and some of the quick tips and Homes Money newsletter options are an option to be able to help you reach a wider audience in a shorter period of time and begin to expand your network. You can do these home opportunity evaluation calls and offers. You can also work with business development partners to expand your reach. So one of the things I'm going to zip through here really quickly is think about what business development partners you can leverage. What business development partners can you be an asset to in helping them carry through on this business development initiative? You know, there's two different ways that I can reach 5 people a day, 5 families a day. I can reach 5 by dialing for dollars for a couple of hours and do sort of the smiling and dialing thing and make 20, 30, 40 phone calls at random with a high probability of catching 5 people that I can have a two-way conversation about. Probably would take me, in all reality, less than 3 hours to do all that. But that means I've got to consistently carve out 3 hours to do it. But the other alternative option is, what if I focus on 1 a day myself and teach 4 other people to focus on reaching 1 a day? All of a sudden, 5 a day gets pretty easy. Does that make sense? Part of the concept here is think about, and I've always been fascinated by this whole concept of horsepower, right? I started studying this a while back because I heard a famous speaker by the name of Larry DeAngelis talk about this concept. And one of the things I went out and studied is back around the turn of the last century, in the early 1900s, there was a group of scientists that were trying to come up with a unit of measure for large amounts of force. Okay? And what they figured out is, after doing some weight sled testing multiple times, is that 1 horse could pull about 12,000 pounds by himself. So if we doubled that and we had 2 horses pulling separate loads independently, we had about 24,000 pounds of pull. But when the scientists tried to scale up the study, they ran into one big challenge. Because when they got 2 working together in the same direction, the record was over 104,000 pounds of pull, or roughly 8 times the result of 1 pulling by himself. See, that's what I call the power of the horsepower of partnerships. And so what we can do is work with our colleagues. Instead of, we do the tit for tat, I'll send you a lead, you send me a lead, and we'll keep a scorecard type of referral relationship. What if we truly committed to forming a business development partnership where we work as a team for the same goal? Now, if the 8 times rule holds true, you'd be looking at generating roughly 120 leads a month. Now, how do you do it? In fact, you may not even believe that's possible, but if it was, what would it look like? Well, some of the initiatives that I've shared with you today drill down into how to go about reaching 8 times the results and generating the opportunity to speak with and finding service opportunities of helping hundreds of families in your community. So one of the things that I want you to be watching for, and I don't even have time to pull up details on all of this, but when we begin to work with business development partners and we begin to team up with those business development partners, we create massive opportunities to be a huge asset to them and for them to be a huge asset to their friends, family, colleagues, and the people they care about in the community. If we work together as a team, we have the opportunity to reach a massive volume of families who can benefit from this unprecedented housing opportunity. So with that in mind, go ahead and keep posting your final questions. I'm going to be jumping into Q&A mode just a little bit here as I jump through a few things. Oh, by the way, one of the questions asked, how can we get access to some of these tools and resources that you're seeing? Yes, I will package PowerPoint that I'm going to be sending out. We'll send it out in follow-up messaging along with a recording of today's program. In addition to a separate email that will go out as soon as I get the recording back from Mark once he gets through the social media presentation program. Now, some of the ideas and concepts that I know Mark was going to share with you is what message do we share? You know, and there's one way of casting a huge net is focusing on some of the main bullet points of what I've shared with you today about this unprecedented housing opportunity. So with that in mind, go ahead and post your questions in the Q&A. And David and Earl, if you would help me with monitoring some of the Q&A questions and just flag me on some of the better ones, I'm going to try and read through a couple of these very quickly. I want to make sure that we can read through these. Actually, what I'd like to do, actually, David, I'm going to ask you to jump in here real quickly, and anything that has come to mind, any key ideas, any key things that you would like to share with the audience today's program about how we can reach more families with this housing initiative.
Well, I just wrote two things down. I love the quote, "We don't know what we don't know until someone who cares for us shares it with us." And that's just kind of like one of those in-your-face, uh-oh, what am I doing wrong? Am I not communicating how awesome things are? And just focusing on the client on the phone with me or across the desk from me and just caring for the matter at hand rather than looking big picture and realizing that they have people they care about that they could be letting know and spreading that net as you described it a little more. So I'm always into asking for referrals, but not from the perspective of maybe there's people out there who don't know about this opportunity that you know that you could share with. So that was one thing that I wrote down. I like the phrase home buying initiative. That's just really easy to work into your scripting and into your conversations. So I'm going to be starting to use that in my next appointment.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, guys, keep posting with the questions. There's a couple of different questions here that I'm going to address very, very quickly. Several people have asked the questions about the recording of today's program and the PowerPoint. Yes, I will make sure our team gets this packaged and into a PDF for you guys so you'll have access to this along with all the scripting that you saw. You can also go back to the PowerPoint slide that I shared with you just a few minutes ago. And that'll the www.mxlcoach.com/solutions, and you'll be able to download the tools. I'll cover that again here in just a minute. But yes, you will have access for recording of the program. You will also have access to the PowerPoint from the recording for your practice guidance and usage. All right. Let's see. Earl McLean, Coach Earl.
Hey, how you doing?
Ideas, comments?
You know what? I always enjoy your webinars. I think you did a great job on it. But, yeah, I think it's all – you pretty much covered everything, I think.
Well, you know, guys, okay, so how to here's another question that just popped in. How to target HR professionals to introduce homebuyer initiative to their employees. Great question. Okay, so David, Earl, you guys, either of you have any great thoughts on how to introduce this concept or idea to HR professionals?
Well, since this is David, and since I like to work with warm leads and personal introductions rather than cold calling, I would gravitate toward looking in my database for my clients that are self-employed that have businesses with employees. That would be a very easy one to pass along to them. Or clients that you've done loans for that are HR professionals, and talking about what you might be able to do with their employee group, whether it's coming in to do some brown bag lunches during their different shift lunch times, and talking about home ownership opportunities, the home buying initiative, different loan programs, and that kind of thing, and just getting people excited about it so that they know there's a next step they need to take.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of, if you have a major company within your metropolitan area, I know here in Minnesota we've got several major companies that they usually will try to put on different brown bag lunches, just like what David was talking about, lunch and learns, that sort of thing to add value to their employees, and they're a lot of times looking for people to come through. So it's something that they're very used to. So I would even talk to some of the HR people there.
Yeah. I'll add one other comment to that, which is there are professional HR associations that you can participate with to be able to, you know, and yes, somebody asked, somebody Q&A posted. There are also some more in-depth training programs. Benefit IQ is one that does a pretty good program. It is a little on the expensive side, but it is, you know, is well worth its weight in the investment that you make and the amount of time you save, because it gives you a blueprint to follow, along with a lot of back-end resources. But if you prefer to do a little bit more of a boots-on-the-streets networking style of approach to your marketing, you know, certainly there are professional HR associations. You know, if you reach out to your local chamber of commerce, they can probably plug you in to where the local HR, you know, professionals association is, and I wish I could remember the name of the association or the acronym for it. But there is a national organization of HR professionals, and they do tend to be a very active, participative group, in my experience. You know, they need to pull off steam and connect with their colleagues to vent about their challenges at work, just like we do, and learn from each other. So there's an opportunity. All right. There was one other really good question in here that I want to make sure I hit on, and I'm not going to be able to do it full justice, but I'll share my thoughts with it, which was Bill Bronson asked the question of, you know, how do you share some of these messages on social media, which is a great question, especially since the program originally scheduled for today was Mark Madsen. Again, in case you joined the call late, Mark had an unexpected family emergency that popped up at the last minute. He literally called me about 45 minutes before the program started today, and I just threw some stuff together that I've spent a lot of time and energy talking about, because it's one of my true passions, is making a difference, turning the corner, and going after helping, finding families who benefit from this unprecedented housing opportunity. But the question here is, how do you use Facebook and LinkedIn so it actually moves people instead of seeming like an annoyance? I think two things about social media messaging is, well, and it's just like any marketing messaging, two is you've got to start with what's in it for them, because everybody on the planet is tuned into what they most care about. They're all thinking about how to help them, how to help themselves, their family. What they are truly passionate about is what they spend the majority of their time thinking about. You and I are no different, if you're honest with yourself. I got humbled by this experience a long time ago, because I used to argue with the speakers who would talk about this kind of stuff. The practical reality is you've got to be able to connect with people at the level they're at. Okay, so that's the first message is you've got to communicate to folks where they are or with what they're thinking. What's in it for them is the key concept here. What do they get? How could they benefit from the current unprecedented housing opportunity? So messaging that has themes of, you know, helping you and your family have more control of your housing situation. How about helping you and your family stop throwing money away on rent, start building equity for your family and your future. How to, those kind of questions or comments similar to some of the who questions you heard me talking about earlier in today's program. That's the first piece of the messaging with Facebook, is something that resonates and connects with what they care about. Okay? The second thing is a call to action, something that encourages them to take one more step forward in the process of pursuing doing something different with their housing situation. That's why we call it the Home Opportunity Initiative, because we're doing everything in our power to reach out as aggressively as possible and make sure that the uninformed and unaware are at least informed and made aware so that they can make a decision about whether it's right or not for their family based on information. Okay? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there in the media too. So that's the other thing we have to remember is if we're going to take down the megalith of the American media, then we've got to do everything in our power to work as a team at the grassroots level to get the message across and make sure those that are most likely to benefit are at least able to make an informed decision about whether they can benefit or not. David and Earl, thank you so much for jumping in really quickly for me on a kind of short notes. For those of you listening to this program and those of you on recording, literally this was a last-minute change. I literally emailed and chatted with David and Earl as they were jumping onto the call and asked them to help me out with today's program. Just because I think it's that important. I just want to highlight a couple of key things that are important. Thank you for joining everybody for the program. By the way, there's a couple of things at the very, very end of the program I want to make sure that you stick around for, but there are a couple of things I need to brief the community on here. As you know, we launched this program back at the beginning of October with the initiative and goal of creating a learning community. And our gift to the industry and our passion for the industry is building better loan officers and working to do everything we can to make a difference in the lives of originators and, more importantly, the families and people that you touch on a daily basis in what you do. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to be able to create a learning environment where we're bringing a consistent, high quality of content to you. The reason that I made a last-minute adjustment to share some of these important initiatives with you guys instead of canceling the program altogether is because we've built this design. Now, many of you are asking the question, what is this whole coaching thing? How's it work? All of that kind of stuff. Well, one of the ways we found, the best way we found over the years to help people understand the true value of coaching is to let you experience it. So to that end, we offer a no-cost, no-obligation strategy session, which is a one-on-one program between you and a coach. One of our coaching staff, they will walk you all the way through the coaching experience, and we'll take a little bit of time to talk to you a little bit about the commitments and investments on both sides of the equation if it's something of interest to you. There's no cost, no obligation, no commitment required. It's just simply the best way we've found to help people understand the true value of coaching. If you'd like one of those strategy sessions, the best way, and by the way, they are filled on a first-come, first-served basis because we only have literally a handful of sessions a week available between our current team of 5 coaches. The best way to get that is to go ahead and indicate for me that you'd like a strategy session in the Q&A section of today's webinar platform. And by the way, make sure you give us a phone number and email address, the best way to reach you so that our team can get a hold of you to schedule that appointment with one of our coaches. The alternative is you can go to our mxlcoach.com/strategy website. And right there on the form, you can fill out the information, give us the contact information, leave a number for somebody to call you and get one of those appointments scheduled. Keep in mind, like I said, these are filled on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you would like one of these strategy sessions, I encourage you to go ahead and post that in the Q&A section. Secondly, tools and resources. I'll get to that in just a second. You guys heard Greg Frost speak on the maximum influence, the principles of ethical influence. Greg has agreed to do a 6-part in-depth training series webinar, 1 hour a week for 6 consecutive weeks. It'll run on Wednesdays starting March 13th. It will be at 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific, 10 Mountain. Somebody gave me grief about not putting Mountain Time on the slide, and I didn't get it changed, so I'll have to make sure I get that done for next week. Anyway, if you'd like more information about the 6-part Cialdini Maximum Influence webinar series, which is going to be presented by Mr. Greg Frost. Go to www.mxlcoach.com/Greg Frost to find out information about the program, the investment required, and what kind of time and money investment that you would need to put into it. Highly, highly valuable stuff. It'll bridge across anything you do, no matter what your market is and how you approach it. Learning the laws of ethical influence will dramatically impact your ability to be able to communicate your message effectively and create action on the part of the people that you so want to reach out to. Just like today's initiative, like I talked about, you've got to get a hold of people and help them realize what they don't know. You've got to care enough, and sometimes that requires us to understand how people think and react and respond to what we need to do to get them sold on the idea of participating, because 9 out of 10 times the number one objection you're going to get when it comes to reaching somebody about the housing opportunity has to do with the fact that they just don't think they have time, or they don't think they can afford it, that they're too scared to tell you the truth on that. So what we need to do is reduce those barriers and eliminate some of that resistance. Well, this series is going to give you the tools and resources to be able to do that. Again, the website, mxlcoach.com/Greg Frost. In addition, we have another special program coming up. Last week you had the opportunity to hear from Mr. Brad Korn, and he is doing an 8-part in-depth webinar series called Make the Phone Ring Again. He's going to be talking to you about how to set up and automate your warm-up and follow-up communications process. If you want to get more information about Greg Frost's program, it's going to be an 8-week series that will start on Monday, the 15th, and it'll be running at 10:30 Central, 8:30 Pacific, and the rest of the time zones. Do the math for yourself. Next thing coming up is next week's session. I'm going to be going a little bit into the 5 keys to peak performance, systems for success, and how to organize and strategize your teams so you don't have people running the wrong place, go in the wrong directions in your business. If you want more information about upcoming webinar series, you can always go back to our mxlcoach.com/webinars. Check out the page of the upcoming events. We usually try and post those out 6 to 8 weeks in advance so you can see what's coming down the pike and get registered early. All right, so last thing, as you've heard me every week close out these webinars, those of you that are new to the series, one of the most important things you could do is you've invested already some time in today's program. The problem is you've heard a lot of great ideas, but knowledge by itself is useless. Knowledge without action doesn't do anything for you. No matter how great the idea is, no matter how well you understand the concept or idea, if you don't do something with it, it will not affect your business. The key is action. So here's what I want you to do to put some of the ideas in action that you've heard on today's program. 1, pick the one single idea that was most valuable to you. Decide the one. You can come back for the rest later. You'll have the recording. 2, decide what action you need to take to make this one thing, this one idea, a part of your daily business from this point forward. 3rd is set a target date. By when will you have that action taken, completed, implemented? And 3rd, who are you going to ask to hold you accountable to following through? Find a colleague, somebody you respect, somebody you trust, somebody you care about, who cares about you, who you're going to feel guilty if you don't follow through. Tell them what you're going to do and ask them to hold you accountable and follow up with you at a specific date and time. If you need help finding an accountability partner, we're always here to help. If there's any questions you have about the coaching program, like I said, the best way to find out is take advantage of one of our no-cost, no-obligation strategy sessions. If you'd like a strategy session, please go ahead and post in the Q&A now your request for a strategy session with the best phone number and email address to be able to reach you, and our team will get a hold of you to get that scheduled just as fast as humanly possible here. With that in mind, guys, anything else, comments from our emergency guest panelists today, Mr. David Kuiper and Mr. Earl McLean? Thank you again for joining me today. Thank you again for being a part of the program. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our group today?
You done good. Way to wing it.
Nice job, Erik.
Gotta love shoot from the hip programs, right? No, I tell you what, though, my heart and prayers go out for Mark. He didn't really have time to go into great detail what was going on. Hopefully, all the best and safety and blessings with his family. So we will be obviously following up with that, making sure that he definitely wants to share his message with you guys. He's got a ton of great information. If you guys have never heard Mark Madsen before, he is an incredibly fabulous presenter, but even better, heart of a, just a true heart of a giver, and he's just very genuine and sincere in his desire to help people. And I could hear the agony in his voice when he had to tell me he could not be on today's program. So, I'll be making sure that he and I follow up. I don't want to put too much pressure on him because I want him to take care of his family situation first. But we will definitely be making sure we get him rescheduled and as quickly as humanly possible, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, with that in mind, thank you again, Mr. David, Mr. Earl, for joining us for today's program. Thank you again for helping with the program. All of you who attended today's program, thank you again for committing and investing your time in bettering yourselves. I look forward to seeing you on future webinars, programs, anything else we can help you with. Certainly feel free to reach out to our team. I'm going to leave the webinar platform open for just a few more minutes. Again, any questions that came to mind just as we were closing out today's program, any questions that came in through the course of today's program, feel free to go ahead and post those in the Q&A. We will be making sure that our team follow up with those questions and get those answers back to you directly. If you'd like to be able to take advantage of one of those strategy sessions, the no-cost, no-obligation coaching experience with one of our coaches in a one-on-one environment, please go ahead and post that in the Q&A. Any additional questions related to today's topic or content, go ahead and post those in the Q&A.